Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. I've got 3 stories for you in this latest Moon Lambo Hot Jam. I'll start with this one from the Crypto Basic, and this is Brad Garlinghouse, Ripple CEO, following through on his word months ago to have ultimately a victory party after the SEC would ultimately get defeated, which did happen a month and a half ago, as you well know. So here's the headline from the Crypto Basic. Ripple to officially celebrate XRP win against SEC in New York as promised. And folks, you're invited to this party. Yes, all of you listening, quite literally. Here's another headline for the Crypto Basic. Ripple VP says next 2 years could be tipping point for mass crypto adoption. And they're covering perspective, like it says here in the title, from the Ripple VP. And it's just so interesting because she ends up citing kind of the shift in beliefs in the world of crypto as it pertains to traditional finance. And I've observed the same things in part that are actually cited here. I mean, it used to be the case, like even when I jumped in almost 6 years ago into crypto, that, it was starting a little bit, you could somewhat argue, to become a little bit more mainstream, but still we're at this point where, could you imagine like a family office in like an investment firm, just pick a local firm wherever you live, in 2017 trying to convince customers to get exposure to crypto? It would be a harder sell back then. But now, almost 6 years later, we're at it's a completely different landscape in the sense that it's more like if you're not trying to make sure that your customers, your clients get at least some exposure to crypto, then it's more like, why aren't you engaging in due diligence here, Mr. Financial Advisor? It seems closer to that. And in terms of actual adoption, it's a similar story, because there's this question, it's like, is there a place for XRP and crypto in traditional finance? Is it even there? Like, that conversation was still being had back then, and not so much today. Things have changed. And so we're at this point where it's as cited here by the Ripple VP, it looks like a tipping point, actually. And so what might that mean for XRP in the long haul? Then there's also this article from the Crypto Basic. Deaton asks SEC to read Howey again following its claim that XRP has no intrinsic value. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, so let's get to the most fun piece first here. Ripple throwing a big-ass party, it seems. And I don't really need to read the article. Here you can see the announcement from the official Ripple X account, formerly known as Twitter, sharing this with 2.6 million followers. They shared this little graphic that just says NYC, September 29th. And then they wrote, save the date. We're hosting a community celebration on September 29th in New York City. Stay tuned for more details to come later this week. And so, folks, there are no specifics available at the time that I'm recording beyond this, but my God, I hope they really thought this through, because that's a lot of people. Now, I know that because look, our community is literally full of millions of people. There are millions of people that have held XRP, like unquestionably the case. Now, I know that not all of them are going to travel to NYC, but still, that's going to be a lot of... Ripple's throwing a party. You don't think people are going to be trekking across the continental U.S.? You don't think some people, at least, are actually going to fly in from other countries? So, obviously, it's there's a higher barrier to entry, let's say, if you're not in the continental U.S. I acknowledge that. But still, even so, I just think you're going to have a boatload of people there. So, I don't know what the venue's going to be. I hope it's big. Here's what Brad Garlinghouse had to say. He reposted that and said, as promised, it's time for that proper victory party. The last few years have been quite the journey, and I look forward to sharing a celebratory toast on September 29th in New York City. And so, folks, he first brought this up, I think it was the beginning part of May. I want to say it was that XRP Las Vegas event. And so here we are, several months later, following through that he wasn't kidding. He's actually thrown a big old party for the entire XRP community. I can only imagine what this looks like. So one would think it would be some sort of ticketed style event, because otherwise, if you don't have any idea how many people are coming, well, that's something. But still, this is short order. This is not much news. In fact, there's about a 0% chance that I'll be there. In fact, this conflicts with a trip that I have coming up with my girlfriend, celebrating an anniversary. So there's about a 0% chance that I'll be there because it butts up against this thing. Which sucks, but hey, would have been nice if there was a little bit more A little bit more notice, but hey, I still think it's cool as hell that they're doing this. I'll just have to live vicariously through everybody else. Here's a quote from attorney Deaton. He reposted this as well from Ripple, and he said, "I know a little something about the XRP community and how hard and long they fought for clarity. I have 75,000 email addresses and cell phone numbers to prove it. All I can say is, I hope Ripple has a large venue." Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I think attorney Deaton's spot on there. So hopefully, I mean, I'm sure they will. They'll think through all this stuff and the logistics and everything. But this is a big deal, and to pull it off with this little notice, I mean, but tell you what, if anyone can pull it off, it's Ripple. So there we are. And then there's this. Ripple VP says next 2 years could be tipping point for mass crypto adoption. Recently, Emi Yoshikawa, the vice president of corporate strategy at Ripple, said the next 2 years could be a tipping point for the mass adoption of crypto. Yoshikawa expressed this sentiment while fielding questions from panelists at Ripple Consensus. Prominent XRP influencer Crypto Eddie shared a snippet of the interview with the crypto community. During the interview, Yoshikawa shed key insights about the state of blockchain in the payment industry. Particularly, she shared data points from a payment report Ripple recently published in collaboration with the U.S. Faster Payments Council. According to the VP, Ripple surveyed 300 payment professionals across 45 countries. The aim was to gauge the present state of blockchain payments from the professional's perspective. The survey also aimed to get insights into the advantages and challenges of blockchain. Interestingly, the report unveiled that, and check this out, folks, 100% of the respondents acknowledged the benefits of utilizing blockchain and cryptocurrencies in payment processes. So pause to think about this. That would not have been the case close to 6 years ago. Crypto is a much harder sell, and investing in any crypto, including XRP back then, was certainly more risky than it is today. I mean, that's my personal belief anyway. There are risks, and XRP could go to zero. I certainly acknowledge that. I don't know what's going to happen with the price, but it just, my personal, unprofessional opinion is that XRP, certainly to me, seems quite a bit less risky. I mean, because you've got the legal clarity, obviously, but even in terms of adoption and further proof that XRP continues to move with broader crypto markets. So for those big moves, XRP's got that too. Now that XRP's unshackled, that's why I'm so excited to see what happens next time crypto markets hit euphoria, which is an inevitability as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, piece continues. Also, according to Yoshikawa, 97% of the professionals believe that blockchain and crypto would substantially influence payment systems over the next 3 years. Based on the data, the Ripple VP emphasized the industry is no longer questioning the use of blockchain and crypto. Instead, the focus has shifted to determining the when and how of crypto integration. And here's a quote from her. So clearly, it is no longer a question of if, right? It's more a question of when, how, end quote. Moreover, Yoshikawa underscored the evolving sentiment within the payment industry. She recalled that doubts prevailed 7 years ago regarding the relevance of blockchain and cryptocurrencies in the payment sector. However, according to her, the skepticism no longer exists. In her words, quote, "When I started working at Ripple 7 years ago, there was still a lot of skepticism and question of does the payments industry really need blockchain or crypto? But we no longer hear that question," end quote. And then she goes on to state that the next 2 to 3 years will mark a pivotal tipping point for widespread adoption. So now we're talking in terms of actual utility. So to me, and again, I can never technically know anything for sure, can't actually see into the future, but to me it's always seemed like this is just an absolute inevitability, because if there's new technology that's useful, humans have a tendency to not discard that. Humans have a tendency to rally around it and adopt it, and if laws need to change to make it make sense, then people figure it out. And so here we are all these years later, and we're finally at this point. It's like and that's why you go fast forward another 10 years. I mean, there's going to be way less opportunity when it comes to investing in crypto compared to today. That's what I believe anyway. Not that there wouldn't be opportunity. I'm just saying. This is the golden era when it comes to crypto. We're in it. We're living it right now. It's the opportunity of a lifetime, so far as I'm concerned, and people are increasingly agreeing. So when I jumped in, and it was probably similar for most or all of you, we're taking a position basically, in terms of what our beliefs are, and we're putting our money where our mouth is, basically. But we're taking these positions having to do with crypto and talking about the long-term viability of this. They're minority positions. And what we're seeing, of course, is the more time passes, the more mainstream it gets. And so the fact that we were in before almost anybody agreed with it, that's the reason there's opportunity. If everybody agreed, it would be too late for all of that opportunity. But here we are. And then to the third story, Deaton asks SEC to read Howey again, following its claim that XRP has no intrinsic value. Crypto Law US founder John Deaton has once again slammed the SEC for losing sight of its mission and purpose. According to attorney Deaton, the securities regulator ignores the law in its quest to achieve its desired goal. The pro-XRP lawyer cited the Ripple case as an instance where the SEC has ignored the law. Attorney Deaton's comment came after Australian-based lawyer Bill Morgan criticized the SEC for arguing that XRP has no intrinsic value. Morgan stated that the SEC had made this claim during the summary judgment stage of the Ripple case. He added that the regulator made the same argument in its motion for leave to file an amicus curiae brief. And by the way, I'll just pause a note here. And I'm glad that Attorney Deaton tackled this. Now, as far as whether or not XRP has intrinsic value, I say no. And if you got a good argument, if you think that XRP has intrinsic value, let me know why. I don't think so. I think that it has value for sure. But any cryptocurrency, I could just fork the XRP. It's open source. I could literally fork it. And then it's just sitting there, and then I have complete control over it. Does it have intrinsic value? If I fork, I could call it Moon Lambo coin. I could literally do that. It would be XRP, but I'd just rename it. I could even tweak it a little bit. Does that have intrinsic value? No, it does not. In fact, it has zero value, which is different than price. It also has zero price. It's worth $0.00 if you just fork it. But I'm just saying, there's no intrinsic value there. Something only becomes valuable, cryptocurrency, if it's actually being used in solving a problem. And so the fact, as I see it, is that XRP doesn't have intrinsic value, and that's not a negative. That's a recognition of reality, which is different than saying XRP doesn't have value at all. It does have value. It's incredibly valuable, which again is separate from price. Absolutely. But the reason that this even came up is because it doesn't matter. This is not part of Howey. So anyway, piece continues. Check this out. Reacting, attorney Deaton urged the SEC to read the Howey test, a long-standing securities test in the U.S. again. The pro-XRP lawyer quoted a portion of the test, which read, quote, "The test is whether the scheme involves an investment of money in a common enterprise with profits to come solely from the efforts of others. If that test be satisfied, it is immaterial whether the enterprise is speculative or non-speculative, or whether there is a sale of property with or without intrinsic value," end quote. And so there you go. The SEC likes to put on this language, and they, might drum up some emotions in certain people that read it. But it doesn't matter if XRP does or doesn't have intrinsic value as it pertains to the Howey test. They're just... Look, it's the same thing. You know what they're doing? It's the same reason that they are using fraud-like language in the SEC v. Ripple case in a non-fraud case, to drum up the emotions and try and control the optics that the public will see. That's it. That's pretty much it. Piece continues. Furthermore, Deaton recounted the deposition of former SEC Director Bill Hinman in the Ripple case. According to Deaton, Hinman testified under oath that the SEC does not have to satisfy all prongs of the Howey test to prove a sale qualifies as an investment contract. Interestingly, Deaton highlighted two major reasons that could have prompted Hinman to make such comments. Firstly, Deaton said Hinman could have remarked because he was unqualified and incompetent to head the SEC's Corporation of Finance Division at the time. Secondly, he noted that the former director of SEC's Corporation Finance could have lied under oath. And so, folks, this is spot on, and this is why I always say, whatever the reason is, whether it's incompetency or they're just straight up lying, it's bad either way. But those are the options. It's one or the other. And so Attorney Deaton's absolutely hitting the nail on the head here. And so the SEC was always destined to lose because they're on the wrong side of the law. We were right. We continue to be right. What a great time to be in crypto. It's an amazing time to be alive, honestly. This is the golden era of crypto, my friends, and we're living through it. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the Moon Lambo.